Kangaroos belong to a macropod family. Kangaroos are the only animal to use hopping as its primary means of locomotion. The 5 species commonly referred to as kangaroos are the red kangaroo, the eastern gray kangaroo, the western gray kangaroo, the Antiopian kangaroo, and the Republican Supreme Court Justice kangaroos. Uncle Clarence is the last judge to actually be nominated by a Republican who won the popular vote. And you have to go all the way back to 1991 just to get there. And honestly, Clarence Thomas wouldn't be interested in my opinions back in 1991 because I didn't have pubes yet. If you don't get that joke, if you're too young for that joke, look it up. Alito and Roberts were chosen by what we thought at the time was the absolute worst bottom of the barrel the Republican Party could produce. George W. Bush. Man, simpler times, huh? W didn't only lose the popular vote in 2000, he lost the actual election, and it was gifted to him by the Supreme Court, a theme we will keep seeing over and over in this episode. Neil Gorsuch was put in by Trump with the stolen seat they took from Obama. And honestly, how appropriate that a slumlord who disproportionately evicted black people from his properties, who lost by 3 million votes, who consistently has failed upward in his life, how appropriate is it that he gets to take a stolen seat from America's first black president? And then Trump picked Kavanaugh next. I like beer. Boofing. He would take vodka up his butt. I didn't even know that was a thing until I watched these hearings. And then, of course, to round it all off, the trad wife, Amy Coney Barrett. She was instilled in Trump's final year. So over Obama, who won by overwhelmingly majorities both times he was elected, got to choose 3 Supreme Court justices. Aforementioned should have had 4. Donald Trump, who lost by 3 million votes, popular votes, got to choose 3 justices and 1 stolen from Obama. And just to put a bow on how corrupt the court is, how corrupt the process is, Amy Barrett, she fell 3 to 4 months within Trump's final year in office. So according to Mitch McConnell's rule that he used on Obama, they shouldn't have even been able to take a vote on her. And if your reaction to that is, hey, that's just politics, well, that's exactly what this episode is about. A Supreme Court that plays to their team, derived from politicians that never won the popular vote, assembled using made-up rules, and completely picked and owned by a singular, non-elected group, the Federalist Society. This is, by all estimations, a kangaroo court. Lifetime appointed, fully corrupted, self-anointed kings. Trump is the new Adolf. Welcome to all the new subscribers on this channel. Let's get into it. The Founding Fathers had this idea that if the judicial branch weren't elected, they would be sheltered from politics. Now, far be it from me to all over a group from the 1700s who were escaping kings at that time, to think that one of the major branches of government should not be just 1 king, but 8, 9 kings, when a letter used to take a month or 2 to deliver, if that short a time. There's no way they could have foreseen an internet that collected all the scum, the lowest people in this country, got them all together, sent them down a sewer drain, and then collected what was left of that and made it into like a MAGA party, right? There's no way they could have foreseen that. But also Republicans want this country to be governed by a book that was written by some guy in the desert named Peter 2,000 years ago. So I can't really put it past them to think that all these documents from a time before we knew what germs were in this country, before there was indoor plumbing in this country, before there was electricity, I can't put it past them to think that these are the best ways we should govern ourselves now in this modern era. Uncle Clarence and his wife Jeannie, pictured here watching the movie Roots. I could show that Jeannie Thomas lobbied, helped execute all the events that led up to January 6th, and then spent her time after January 6th trying to get her husband to overturn an election, the most secure election in this country's history, and the ethical atom bomb that poses, with Uncle Clarence sitting on that bench and not recusing himself from this case. I could just show that and then wrap up the episode right here. Like and subscribe. But the lengths this power-hungry bootlicker right here will go almost rivals Clarence Thomas. Once again, just for posterity, Alito was picked by this guy.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you.
Landed.
If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Nailed it. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. My only regret was I was too young for Lisa Bonet. My only regret was I was too young for Nina Long. Now I'm left with this reality hose from reality shows. The founding fathers in the 1700s gave this guy right here a lifetime appointment so he could help a reality TV star. You think these people in the 1700s knew what a reality TV star was? So he could give a reality TV star the means to prop up neo-Nazis. I mean, Nazis hadn't even been invented yet in the 1700s. Why? But to be honest, why would slave owners in the 1700s need Nazis? Anyway, I digress. They gave Alito, who uses this as ketchup, who is obsessed with mainstreaming the unilateral executive theory. Basically a theory that says the president is a dictator. He can do whatever he wants. And when you view it through the Alito lens, you could see why arguments like this aren't as crazy.
Well, he's gone. Let's say this president who ordered the military to stage a coup. He's no longer president. He wasn't impeached. He couldn't be impeached. But he ordered the military to stage a coup, and you're saying that's an official act.
I think it would depend.
That's immune.
I think it would depend on the circumstances whether it was an official act. If it were an official act, again, he would have to be impeached.
Well, what does that mean, depend on the circumstances? He was the president. He is the commander-in-chief. He talks to his generals all the time, and he told the generals, I don't feel like leaving office. I want to stage a coup. Is that immune?
If it's an official act, there needs to be impeachment and conviction beforehand because the framers viewed that kind of
If
very
it's an
low
official
risk.
act, is it an official act?
If it's an official act, it's impeachment.
Is it an official act?
On the way you've described that hypothetical, it could well be. I just don't know. You'd have to, again, it's a fact-specific, context-specific determination.
That answer sounds to me as though it's like, yeah, under my test, it's an official act, but that sure sounds bad, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly sounds very bad.
It certainly sounds very bad. That's Trump's lawyer who's arguing for immunity. I agree, it does certainly sound pretty bad.
What I'm, I guess, more worried about, you seem to be worried about the president being chilled. I think that we would have a really significant opposite problem if the president wasn't chilled. If someone with those kinds of powers, the most powerful person in the world, with the greatest amount of authority, could go into office knowing that there would be no potential penalty for committing crimes. I'm trying to understand what the disincentive is from turning the Oval Office into, the seat of criminal activity in this country.
There is no disincentive. Those are two judges who were nominated by presidents who won the popular vote in every single presidential election they were in.
If an incumbent who loses a very close, hotly contested election knows that a real possibility after leaving office is not that the president is going to be able to go off into a peaceful retirement, but that the president may be...
You call this a peaceful retirement?
I'll be
right there with you. A peaceful retirement. Trump wasn't going off building houses like Jimmy Carter. He wasn't going to go fishing. The only thing he was fishing for is white nationalists to storm a Capitol. Alito and the other judges who were not nominated by presidents that won the popular vote, they spent a majority of their time theorizing about a president's powers concerning wartime acts, which has zero to do with this case. This has nothing to do with civilian casualties from like a drone or something, right? And that's where we can finish this episode again. We can all start our Sunday brunch early. We could start that day drinking. Jack Smith brought this case to the Supreme Court last year. He preemptively brought it to them to make a ruling on. Because every single judge, all of them, in the lower court said, of course a president doesn't have absolute immunity. What are you, stupid? Great, all the judges are in agreement. Supreme Court doesn't want to take it up. Let's start the case. Only afterwards, this year, a month and a half ago or 2 months ago or whatever, the only time they decided to take it up was when Trump brought it to them. If you ever need the purest cut you could ever see, I'm talking Don Jr. rolled up $100 bills pure. That's how pure this partisan hackery is. Jack Smith, an esteemed prosecutor, he took this case that this feckless turd had already sat on for 2 to 3 years. He took it to the Supreme Court early, turned in his homework early, and there was no motivation for it from these non-popular vote chosen lifetime appointee deep state kings. And to be honest, Alito and Uncle Clarence probably had plans on the books for their billionaire owners. They were probably getting taken on vacation, given money, and given gifts. So they were probably already booked up with the important stuff. Now, when back of the class, D- Donnie, my daddy paid so I can be in this school. When he wants to turn his homework in, not just late, but he doesn't want you to grade that homework until after graduation. When he does that, these judges roll over for him. Actually, more appropriate than roll over, they bend over. Because that's what all this opining, all this self-righteousness, all this we have to talk about a president during wartime, that's what all this is about. This is about running out the clock for someone who they believe is on their team. And before we go grab those mimosas, I just want to make clear that every judge underneath them said this was a slam dunk case. Of course, a president does have immunity. So if you take a step back and look at it, you can see that all the rot is coming directly from the top.
So I heard the meeting was quite amazing. Quite amazing. And the justices were on their game. So let's see how that all turns out. But again, I say presidential immunity, very powerful presidential immunity is imperative, or you practically won't have a country anymore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So what that low-energy glob was talking about, what's amazing, is that he knows he owns these judges. And the truth is, for the chuds, the MAGA chuds who still follow this guy, I haven't seen that low energy in a long time. The truth is, they are so caught up in the day-to-day culture wars, Twitter, what Cat Turd is talking about, that by the time the effects of all this comes home, it's going to be way too late. When people my age realize that their Social Security is evaporated, that we're not going to get to retire like our parents, like our grandparents. When we realize that the kids of this future are already being leased to the billionaires. And when this cult of personality is used to segue into a dictatorship, into authoritarianism, I'm telling you, we'll all be missing the days of when Cat Turd was the voice of this party.
But while Alvin Bragg's team was attacking free speech in New York, Jack Smith's team was trying to undo 234 years of presidential precedent in the Supreme Court, arguing that presidents should be held criminally liable for actions they take in office.
The whore. Presidents should be held criminally liable when they do criminal things in office. And honestly, if you rip the smarmy ass kissing away from Jesse's face, probably have to get down to the bone on that. I don't think it comes off that easy. All he's saying is that presidents, presumably Republican presidents, that's what he's talking about, because, you know, Hunter Biden, he's saying that Republican presidents should be able to be criminals. And if you said exactly what he said 30 years ago, everyone would agree that yes, presidents should be able to be criminals in this country. But then you attach on this persecution complex that they all have. You know, you got this cult of personality going on. And then he pumps it out in this nightly propaganda station in a way where I guess the morons that watched this nod in agreement and say, oh yeah, I guess I could see how Republicans, they need to be criminals. They need to be criminals. And then next breath, Hunter Biden. It is concerning that a third of this country, or around a third, I don't know maybe he's down to 30% now. I don't know. It's concerning how badly they crave authoritarianism. It's concerning that the aforementioned judges are such servants to power.
I hear from a lot of Republicans who defend Trump saying, well, that's a hypothetical and that's ridiculous. But Alyssa Farah Griffin, who was Trump's communications director, posted yesterday and said that you were present at a moment when Trump suggested executing the person who leaked information that he went to the White House bunker when those George Floyd protests were happening outside the White House. Do you remember that?
I remember him being very mad about that. I actually don't remember him saying executing, but I wouldn't dispute it. It doesn't sound. The president would lose his temper and say things like that. I doubt he would have actually carried it out.
But he would say that on other occasions. You said he would lose his temper.
The president had I think people sometimes took him too literally, and he would say
he's
things
the president.
Similar to that in occasions to blow off steam, but I wouldn't take him literally every time he did it.
Oh my God!
Why not?
Because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be carried out, and you could talk sense.
But just because it's not carried out and you could talk sense into him, doesn't that still mean that the threat is there?
No. What an emotional baby! It's insane that Barr just shrugs off what I guess sounds like more than once, more than 10 times, more than 20 times. The president throwing a tantrum where he says he wants to kill people, where he wants to use the government to murder them. And hearing stuff like this, if any chuds made it this deep into the episode, before you run to the comments, please cry harder for us all about Ashley Babbitt.
Name one thing that Biden has done that's worse than that.
I think his whole administration is a disaster for the country.
Is worse than subverting the peaceful transfer of power?
Did he succeed?
Only because Vice President Mike Pence stood in the way, and now the people who are lining up to be VP again say that they will not do what Mike Pence did.
I mean, look,
Did he succeed is the bar. Pun intended. Is how low the bar is for these sycophants, these worshipers of power. And this pathetic hump who let all of Reagan's crimes go. What was it, like 200 people were indicted under Reagan, maybe more? Same guy. He uses the same ketchup as Alito, and he says he'll vote for Trump in November. And it gets better, or maybe worse, depending on your viewpoint. See, one of the major things in fascist structures is the bending over to power, right? As you go up and up the rungs. Because you always want to stay in some kind of circle of power, but that always means bending over for those above you. And a big part of fascist power structures are humiliating people, right? So this is what Trump writes. Wow! Former AG Bill Barr, who let a lot of great people down by not investigating voter fraud in this country, has just endorsed me for president, despite the fact that I called him weak, slow-moving, lethargic, gutless, and lazy. New York Post, whatever that means, I don't know. Based on the fact that I greatly appreciate his wholehearted endorsement, I am removing the lethargic from my statement. Thank you, Bill. MAGA 2024, with only one exclamation mark. Learning about Bill Barr in college, I didn't think I could ever think less of the guy. But as everything with MAGA, there is no bottom. I've said way too many times on this channel, and I hate repeating it, but if there ever was a deep state, it is these unelected, lifetime appointed judges who were put in there by people that could not even win the popular vote, not even the popular opinion of the country that they're forcing these laws on. And the very reason they're chosen by the Federalist Society to be put in there is because they are partisan hacks. They're not going to take the job serious. All they see is the team. Joe Biden will not fix this. He's not going to fix this next term. Joe Biden operates on some dead set of rules that existed in the 1990s. On the other side, if Trump wins, it's over, right? There's no doubt in my mind it's over. We spend the next 10 to 20 years, if we're lucky, If it only takes that amount of time, untangling ourselves from an autocracy that resembles, a Russian mobster state. And those are the two choices we have to fix this deep state, this rogue deep state that is just making up laws as they go. If you like this video, you think you might like other videos like it, hit that like and subscribe button. If you've been here a while, you want to support the channel, you can become a member. If you missed Chad for some god-awful reason, all those videos are available to the members. Well, not all of them. I'm slowly rolling them out. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. The Chud Report.
So just to be clear, you're voting for someone who you believe tried to subvert the peaceful transfer of power, that can't even achieve his own policies, that lied about the election even after his attorney general told him that the election wasn't stolen. And as the former chief law enforcement in this country, you're going to vote for someone who is facing 88 criminal counts.
Well, look, the 88 criminal counts, a lot of those are, and I've said...
Even if 10 of them are accurate.
The answer to the question is yes. I'm supporting the Republican ticket.
But can you say that you're voting for Donald Trump? Because you're not saying his name. You just say you're supporting the Republican ticket.
I've said, as between Biden and Trump, I will vote for Trump because I